Never find the one you want. I know what I look like, and I know that 80% of what people perceive is what they see. So their first impression of me is not always positive. If they see me just randomly in the street, I'm 6'3", I'm a bit overweight, and I've got a scarred face. No one's going to look at me and go, "Oh, I wonder if that guy was shot while serving his country." You know what I mean, that's not their first impression.
In general, people don't tend to try and notice them. They notice them, and you can physically see their eyes look at you afterwards to see how much of a raving lunatic you are.
A little bit more.
The first time I saw the scar, I was actually when they took the dressing off and took the stitches out. And the first thought I had was, wow, that is amazing.
When my family asked about this on my arm, I told them I was trying to get through a window and I got cut like that. More than anything else, it was just embarrassing. I felt like I put up with so many things. You know, I thought that he would have changed, and even though I didn't want him around the night that he stabbed me, he still was there, and I still kind of protected him instead of protecting myself.
So my last operation that I had, I remember waking up and it just feeling like my hand was on fire, and it was like in a pressure cooker, and it was just like just the whole thing was just radiating, and I was like, what have they done?
It covers most, in fact, almost all of the side of my head, and then comes down over my ear, where they essentially lifted everything up to get to the tumour. When I had hair at the time, it just looked like I'd been in a battle. I'd been in a battle and I'd won. My life will forever be before and after, not just emotionally, visually, sensually. My brain has completely changed. The other parts of my brain overcompensate for the bit that's missing. The doctors don't know how long it's been there, but one doctor suggested that it could have been there for 5-10 years, because it was so big. It was one of the largest brain tumours they've ever operated on.
Secondary school, they would keep moving me away from woodwork. So I'd do like textiles, and then I'd do computing, and then I'd do food, and then I'd do textiles, and then I'd do food, and then I'd do textiles, and then I'd do food. And I was like, what is going on with this system? I didn't realise at the time, but they thought that I couldn't do woodwork. But outside of school, I was like building skate ramps, I was nicking wood out of skips, I was building, I was creating stuff. That basically drilled an oil well of energy into my being, because it was like, oh, I've just got to smash this woodwork. I feel like this scar has just shaped me in a way that has made me really resilient to what other people think of me. If every time I meet someone and I go to shake their hand, if every time I do that and that person can take away my peace or take away my wholeness, then where am I left?
I, Simon Peter Brown, swear by Almighty God that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, in person, crown and dignity, against all enemies, and will observe and obey all orders of Her Majesty, her heirs and successors, and of the generals and officers set over me. So I didn't have a lot of options when I was 18. You know, I was just doing sort of, you know, dead-end jobs, bit of labouring here, bit of this, that and the other. And, you know, I saw this as an opportunity to get a trade, have a career, you know, live somewhere different, do something different and see a bit of the world.
I can't tell you why I started self-harming, because it was my life. It wasn't an event. I tried to hang myself when I was 11, and from that point on I continued to harm myself in various different ways, and I only stopped when I was about 36. I wish I'd never done it, but I couldn't help it. I still battle with the problems and the feelings that used to make me hurt myself. Only now I have the ability and the perception to know that it's not actually me that needs to suffer. I just learned it wasn't my fault anymore.
The morning of the surgery, my mother and a couple of friends and my husband were there. My mum then got onto the bed in front of the medical team and did a paso doble on the bed. We're not into bullfighting. I just like to say that. But it's a sign of strength. It's a dance to show how strong you are. I had so much hair that I could have easily covered it up. But I've never wanted to cover up my scar. And this is just me personally. Covering up my scar would be, for me, saying I'm afraid. Whereas I've wanted to show it and say, I'm not scared of you. This is, bring it on, because I'm not scared.
He's called me a bitch. He's told me nobody would want me. He's hit me. He's hurt me so bad, like mentally, emotionally, in physically. I do feel like I've been scarred in many ways, which I am trying to heal from. A butterfly goes through starting off as a caterpillar and becoming beautiful and being free. That's what it means for me to be free, and free of that relationship, free of that treatment and mistreatment. And every time I look at it, I don't think of an ugly scar or, you know, a traumatic experience. I think of it as the aftermath, the fact that I am able to be free from it and something beautiful can come out of something, you know, that's having a hard time. Yeah.
When I first came home, I had a metal cage on my face, so it was difficult anyway to go out and socialise. And then once the cage came off, I did isolate myself. I did sort of hide in the house, and it was safe, you know. I knew the environment, and it was safe. My mates were not happy with that, so what they used to do was, my old rugby team, my friends used to come and kidnap me, basically, and take me downtown, get me liquored up, and then leave me on my dad's doorstep for him to deal with me. But actually, that was a positive experience. My friends didn't think I'd changed, so it kind of removed my excuse for thinking I had. You know, things were different. They weren't, but it wasn't a change. You know what I mean? I hadn't become a different person. I just had different challenges, and I think that initial impact of them not letting me be isolated was a huge sort of step to moving on.
I can't wait for that hollyhock to come out. Remember the last year? It was just that huge purple flower. No. No. Oh no. It's more glorious. It's big and blousy, like you. I was reading the local paper, and there was an advertisement for a job as a laboratory washer-upper. And I went for an interview, and unanimously they chose me above quite a few other people. I can't remember at the time, but I was quite shocked. And I started, and I began to meet some of the most fantastically diverse, interesting, clever people. And I couldn't believe that these people accepted me and liked me, and I enjoyed being with them, and each day I learnt more, and they learnt little bits from me, and I built up friends with doctors, people that were professors, and they respected me, and it made me feel amazing. It made me feel like an individual. It made me feel like a strong, capable person. Ooh, ooh. Oh, there we go. Beautiful. I love this. That's astounding. And the more I got to know these people, the more I realised that they had exactly the same fears and struggles that I thought I had as a single mother with mental issues.
So there's something about this hand that's made me really, really determined, which is great. But then the other side of it is that if you're my partner, like that resilience, that determination, can be a bit of an emotional wall. So there was this one time where I was splitting up with my partner. We used to joke about my hand like all the time. Like it was one of my favourite things about that relationship. But when we were splitting up, she just said, "Hi, yes, because your hand." And it was like a brilliant joke. Like it was the perfect joke. And we both sort of had like a kind of laugh. And then we kind of like, oh, like, mate, all right, we should just go. There's something about being like this determined, this like positive that can make me like not connect or like miss the connection. Because I don't believe the person that says you can't do that.
Save the black for the eyes.
Actually, I'll do the black as the outside of the mouth and then this as a tongue.
Then my
Okay,
lips
that makes
are.
sense.
Hey, you took the black from me.
My daughters are literally, I always say they saved me. Like, even if I couldn't do it for me, I had to do it for them. They gave me the love that, I was searching for in the wrong places. I don't really want to date anyone. I've tried. The first little thing that person will remind me of him, it won't go any further, like any details. Yes, so I wouldn't even date a Scorpio just because that's what he was. Sorry, I mean, I know you probably can't put it out there to not offend all the other Scorpios. I'm sure they're lovely people, but he was one, and I'm like, what are your Scorpio? Okay, no.
Okay. Well, that's you paying me. Thank you.
What do you need? What do you want?
Can I have... I was worried that how my daughter was going to react. When she first saw the scar without the dressing, she looked at my head and she touched the scar. And she just sort of just gently touched it. And then the next morning, she said to me, I was in bed and she was touching it. And she said, "Mummy, I love that."
I worked my way up from lab glassware cleaner to a laboratory manager, basically, which fascinated me because I'd got a U for my chemistry exam because I drew my friend's ear because I couldn't even answer any of the questions. And I remember standing in a lab one day with all this amazing fume hoods and glassware and stuff, and thinking, well, look at me working in a chemistry lab of all the people. They're not me anymore. They're not me. These aren't mine. The person I am now, I wish they weren't there, because I'm not that person.
You have to become more confident, otherwise, you won't leave the house. It's incredibly intimidating to not be able to see your environment. I was never a good communicator in the sense of open speaking, so I've had to develop that, because I had to be more auditory. I now work with Blind Veterans UK, I work with Help for Heroes and Royal British Legion and things like that. I also started playing rugby again, which when you're 40, fat and blind is not probably the best thing to start in life, but there was, again, an opportunity to do something I thought had been taken away from me. And it's been, opportunities that have come along that I thought I'd never have, and the things that, I never saw myself doing. And it's based around that fact that I've accepted the situation I've got, and I think that's the term. I've accepted and I've adapted.
I think scars can lead to something a lot deeper, like within you. So I feel like they can be sort of holes that go deeper into yourself. And they also tell stories, like true stories. Like, you can't really lie about scars, because they just tell stories as they are.
If I hadn't done it, where would I be? I don't know what would have happened. So they are part of me. They're my making. That's why I'm here now. I genuinely believe it's part of who I am. It's contributed to making me who I am.